Hello, good day. I am Charlie John A. Sakyot. I am one of the researchers, and the title of our research is Assessment of Bookkeeping Practices and its Efficacy to SMEs in Baguio City, Philippines. The research is currently in about only through chapter 1 and through chapter 2. And I am here to discuss about in chapter 1 problem and its background. Now, bookkeeping is the process of recording of all financial transactions of a business that serve as a compilation in a precise and coherent way, with the goal that these data are readily available anytime for decision making. Bookkeeping is often used by small and medium enterprise as a tool to account for their assets, liabilities, and capital. According to Smith, bookkeeping can be as well provide financial protection from frauds or to prevent checks from bouncing or any other forms of potential losses. Consequently, in the study of Brier, Frumosano, and Mancio, argued that if the business events are recorded properly, this decision-making process would be very easy for small-scale business entrepreneurs. Next, a study by Chelemo and et al. Or other research and his other or her other fellow researchers has established that there is a direct relationship between bookkeeping, growth, and profitability of SMEs. According to Campusano, small and medium enterprise or SMEs, which are considered as the country's driving force for economic growth, must have a well-established bookkeeping practices to maintain and improve its financial condition to stimulate to local and national economy. The study has also established that there is a direct relationship between bookkeeping, growth, and profitability of SMEs. If properly maintained, bookkeeping could lead to an increased profitability and expansion of SMEs. The study of Abdul Rahamun revealed that accounting records keeping is essential for decision making with invariability effects of, small scale enterprises. A brief on another definition of SMEs, according to Ibarra, small and medium-sized enterprise play a vital role in wealth creation and dispersion of industry to the countryside, allowing more equitable distribution of income. This encourages entrepreneurial development, stimulating gainful employment, and supporting expert growth and a potent force against poverty. Now, we will now I will now talk about the SMEs in the Philippines. The SMEs in the Philippines are vital in the recovery of the national economies, and this is not solely based on the generation of capital and income. This can also be more on the form of employment, generation of employment. The importance of SMEs are getting more recognition that the government had to create RA 8289 or Republic 8289, or as known as Magna Carta for Small Enterprise, which aims to strengthen and support SMEs development. Now, how do you define SME in the Philippines? SMEs would have around 10 to 99 employees and asset value of around 3 million to 100 million. And accordingly to the official Facebook page of Baguio City, there are around 2,900 SMEs, in which there are around 2,400 small-sized enterprises and around 500 medium-sized enterprises. As this is currently update as of 12th of June in the year 2020.
Bookkeeping among MAC owners managers. As Noala said, and also 2014, keeping record or not keeping record have different reasons among MAC owners, and this vary from business to business. Many MAC owners have the contrary perception about bookkeeping. Some view bookkeeping as a waste of time, and some consider bookkeeping as an enhancement to their business performance. In the study of Mushira 2012, many MAC owners managers were satisfied by using informal ways to judge the growth for their enterprise. Oculi 2011 said the accounting information is important for a successful management of any business entity, whether large or small. Some authors such as Alasan and Mauso 2014, Mushira 2012 believe that accurate and complete records by the maintaining the proper record keeping could make the business more successful. The role of record keeping in the business growth, performance, and portability, portability as started by Asham and Mauso 2014. There are different insights about the purpose and importance of bookkeeping. According to Mushira 2012, the Purpose of bookkeeping is to help the business to allow the tax agency evaluate their earnings for the tax purpose. This study aims to determine the instead of implementation of bookkeeping practice in small and medium enterprise as well as knowing if the practice achieve in the purpose in the business operation of SME in Baguio City. This study will be beneficial of business owner and managers in opening their insight on how the manage their business properly to lead it the success and growth. Result of this study will help the further business owners in planning their bookkeeping practice and utilize the resources properly. Theoretical and conceptual framework. There are different theories about bookkeeping. First is the record continuum theory, one of the theories that provide a theoretical justification for record keeping. At the first level, an idea of record identifies accountable act and create reliable evidence of such as by the capturing record of related supporting transaction. Activities and recorded through email document management software or another software application within the organization. At the second level, record are about logical rather than the physical entities. The third level is the record keeping profession. A responsibility needs to emphasize the need of incorporate and shameless record keeping into a business and social related procedure and purposes. For the last level is the actual science as the structure for organization knowledge about record keeping. Such knowledge is revisable but can be structured and explored in terms of the operation of principle for action in the past, present, and the future. Aharton 1985 said that all all stages of bookkeeping are connected to the one another. As a result, forming continuum where both record keepers and achievers are involved in the management recorded information. The theory promotes integration of record keeping into the organization business system and process. Mark Kimmer's 2011. According to Harvard Jeffrey 2004, bookkeeping is set of the rules for recording financial information in financial accounting system, which vary transaction change. There are different situations when it comes to bookkeeping, in which it is used, including personal and business banking.
This research also presents theories and concepts of assessing bookkeeping practices and its efficacy to small and medium enterprises concentrated by the theory of Freeman. Three theories are to be discussed. First is the information theory. According to Freeman 2008, communication is the fundamental function of accounting and bookkeeping practices, and that accounting statements are used to inform manager owners of business, small scale business enterprises, and external users of the financial aspects of the business entities. They are the most tonal basis for finance decisions. Decision theory. According to Freeman, to lead best results or optimizes the desired goal, decision making should not be used as intuitive process but a conscious evaluation of the possible alternatives. Measurement theory. To measure the influence of bookkeeping on the survival of very small businesses, it is important to concentrate to the respect of the double entry bookkeeping theory, which assures that all transactions have all duly recorded. Bookkeeping system is predicated on the principle that each economic transaction has two effects which are exactly opposite to every other. Any transaction can have only two effects, debit and credit, and they are always equal. Reasons for bookkeeping. According to Hollander, one of the most important reasons for keeping good records is that it is legal requirement. In 5 years, the company must keep the business records after they are prepared, obtained, or the transaction completed, whichever occurs latest in a form that they can access and understand to work out the amount of tax they are liable to pay. There are also other reasons for keeping good business records, and these are to make it easier to complete the activity statements and prepare your annual income tax and fringe benefits tax returns. Also, help the business to manage their cash flow so they can pay their tax when it falls due. SME budgeting control practices. According to Easy Books, business using bookkeeping practices helps them budget accurately. A budget creates a financial roadmap for the business. Business are simply the financial plans that relate to an operation or an entity for a forthcoming period. Marfoyadong observed that theoretically a budget serves two purposes. First, they alert the financial manager to future cash needs. Second, the cash flow forecast provide a standard or budget against which subsequent performance can be judged. Since using the budget or expenditure, for example, the business owner can readily compare actual cash expenditures to targeted values.
SMEs tax compliance. SMEs hires bookkeepers to prepare financial statement for tax purposes, but normally accountant is the one who prepares financial statement. There are different requirements that accountants provide based on how frequent SMEs avail the following. First is the preparation of annual tax returns and other tax reports. Second is the assistance of tax computation. Third, preparation of monthly and quarterly tax reports. Fourth is the filing of tax returns. Fifth, assistance in tax cases and settlements. Sixth, tax planning. And lastly, tax education and information. Relation of bookkeeping to business decision making. To survive and thrive in any industry, companies needs to adopt and be flexible to what the market wants and needs. Managerial decision making relied on relevant, reliable, and timely information. Jackie Lorray said that it is important to integrate long-term financial and business growth objectives into a decision to construct the best structure we want for our business. Comparing different companies' performance can improve a company's accuracy that they can use to predict the amount, the timing, and likelihood of future cash flow. Based on the study of Nyati and Benedict, most micro entrepreneurs are doing bookkeeping manually but does not complete the cycle that most micro entrepreneurs says that decision making is interconnected in maintaining the financial records. Cash flow importance, techniques, and methods are managing and improving a business cash flow given that the indubitable effect that poor cash flow management can have a business, particularly SMEs. It is imperative that small business know how to and manage their cash flows effectively. An understanding of how future cash flows are generated and what factors affect those flows is an integral part of making investment decisions that increase a firm's economic value. The findings of Uwondo Okello confirm to the view of McGregor that owners of SMEs could not generously track where their hard earned cash will be going in the future. Theories of financial reporting. Hughes 2003 asserted that keeping records is an important driver for the success of a business because it enables business owners to have accurate and timely reports that details the progress and prospect of the business. Preparation of financial statement is the most important bookkeeping practices because it implies that SME owners wanted to be assured on preparing and submitting monthly financial statement of the business. The IPO or the input process output. For the input, extent of bookkeeping practices implementation and level of efficacy of bookkeeping practices. To process those inputs, flotation of questionnaires, gathered questionnaires, summarize the gathered data through tables and graphic organizer, statistical treatment, descriptive statistics like Likert scale, frequency counting, percentage distribution, weighted mean, person R coefficient. For the output, to determine the extent of implementation of the bookkeeping practices among the areas of budgeting, decision making, financial reporting, cash flow, and tax compliance, and to know if these practices are achieving its viable purposes in the operation of SME in Baguio City. And lastly, for the output, to prove the hypothesis of significant relationship or significant difference between the extent of implementation of bookkeeping practices and the level of efficacy of bookkeeping practices of SME. For the statement of the problem, for the first question is what is the extent of implementation of bookkeeping practices among SME along the following areas: budgeting, tax compliance, decision making, financial reporting, and cash flow. For the second question, what is the level of efficacy of bookkeeping practices among SME along the areas of budgeting, compliance, or tax compliance, decision making, financial reporting, and cash flow. For the third, is there a significant difference between the extent of implementation of bookkeeping practices and the level of efficacy of bookkeeping practices in the business operation of SMEs? Is there a significant relationship between the extent of implementation of bookkeeping practices and the level of efficacy of bookkeeping practices in the business operation of the SMEs?
Chapter 2 discussed the design and methodology that will be used to gather data for this study. With regarding the research design methodology, this study will be using descriptive correlation research design to identify the business profile of the respondents as well as the extent of the implementation of bookkeeping practices and its level of efficacy to SMEs. It describes the research with the systematic and accurate information and describes the relationships of each variable. From the findings, the researchers will explore and dig further as to the extent of implementation of the bookkeeping practices to SME business operation and whether these practices achieve its purpose in terms of budgeting, decision-making, tax compliance, financial reporting, and cash flow. For the population and locale of the study, the respondents of this study will consist of SME business owners or managers because we, the researcher, believe that they have more access on the business profiles and they know the bookkeeping practices they use and what benefits that their business achieve in using these different bookkeeping practices. The study will be administered in the Baguio City because it will be the common ground for the researchers and to provide convenience for them, for us. And as stated a while ago, Baguio SME is composed of 2,900 enterprises. Enable to ensure a reasonable accurate result, a Slovan formula was used to compute for the sample size. A total of 352 sample size was computed with a confidence level of 95%. The data gathering tool of this study is a survey questionnaire that includes three parts. Part 1 is for the demographic profiles that will be checked by the respondents. Part 2 assess the extent of implementation of bookkeeping practices of SME using a 4-point rating scale under the areas of budgeting, decision making, financial reporting, cash flows, and tax compliance. Same with the following given areas. The part 3 assess the efficacy of bookkeeping practices of SME using again the 4-point rating scale. The areas or parts presented are based on the reasons for bookkeeping under the publication of Department of Treasury IRS Publication 583 entitled Starting a Business and Keeping Records. Researchers will conduct a pre-test where the survey questionnaire will be tested first with a small test group before it will be administered to the actual respondents of the study. It will help to save us time and to attain the questionnaires' reliability and validity. Upon the procedure of gathering the data, respondents will be chosen randomly using the random sampling technique to avoid any form of bias, making the results more reliable. We will administer the questionnaire among the business owners within a reasonable time enough for them to answer. When the respondents finish the questionnaire, statistical analysis will be integrated and administered to retrieve the vital information for the fulfillment of the study. For the treatment of data, all data will be processed by using the following statistical analysis tool. The frequency and percentage distribution will be used in determination of the respondents' demographic profiles. Weighted mean will be used in discovering the extent of the implementation and the level of efficacy of the bookkeeping practices. Moreover, areas of bookkeeping practices will be ranked according to the total average weighted mean, enable for the researcher to discover the best areas to use the bookkeeping practices. Lastly, the Pearson R correlation is a statistical tool that will be used to measure the strength of the association between the variables. Part 2 will be interpreted with the following statistical limits: 4 being the highest with a descriptive equivalent of always, indicates are regularly integrated in the operation of the business. 3. With the descriptive equivalent of often, indicates that the bookkeeping practices are frequently applied in the operation of the business. 2. With the descriptive equivalent of rarely, means that the keeping practices are occasionally applied in the operation of business. Lastly, 1 with the descriptive equivalent of never are not integrated at all in the operation of the business. While part 3 will be interpreted using the following statistical limits. Is descriptive equivalence ranging from strongly agree, agree, disagree, and strongly disagree. The normal value of 4 implies that the bookkeeping practices highly achieves its variable purpose in the operation of the business, while normal value of 3 implies that the bookkeeping practices achieve its variable purpose in the operation of the business. 2 with descriptive equivalent of disagree does not satisfy its purpose enough in the operation of business. And lastly, 1 implies that the bookkeeping practices does not achieve its purpose at all in the operation of the business. Again, our research is entitled Assessment of Bookkeeping Practices and its Efficacy to SMEs in Baguio City, Philippines.